Hi, everybody. Thanks for being here. My name is Chloe. I use he or she pronouns, and I am the farm manager at Southside Community Farm, which I've been doing for just over 4 years. And I just wanted to give a little bit of context of what Southside Community Farm is, where we are in this community of Southside, and then Kate, my lovely coworker, will talk more about fridge logistics and pantries. So this is Southside. We're in the Southside neighborhood. It is a historically segregated Black neighborhood. And it is still currently predominantly Black. It's about 55% Black. And this is also the neighborhood that has the most low-income public housing of any neighborhood in Asheville. So there's Livingston Heights, which is closest to this center, right across the street. Up Livingston Street, there's Erskine, there's Walton Street, and then there's other ones that are close by as well. But those are the three that are kind of in the heart of Southside. And Southside Community Farm is on Livingston Street. We're behind the Eddington Center. We're in very close walking distance of the Erskine public housing. And yeah, the farm was started 11 years ago by Black residents of the neighborhood because there's no grocery stores and no easy access to fresh food in the neighborhood. And there's a reason for that, and that's food apartheid. So we're looking at that. The reason that grocery stores don't exist in this neighborhood isn't just there never happened to be any. It's actually there were upwards of 14 small mom and pop owned grocers in this neighborhood when this neighborhood, which was known as the East Riverside neighborhood, was the main economic center of Black life in Asheville. That Black center was very intentionally destroyed by the city of Asheville through an urban renewal project in the 1960s and 70s, in which people's homes and businesses were purchased through eminent domain forcibly for sometimes as little as $600. And all of those small grocers, as well as many people's homes, home gardens, fruit trees. There used to be a ton of fruit trees in this neighborhood, and other businesses were intentionally destroyed. The last grocer left or was destroyed, I think it was 1974. And so there's been a good 50 years since then where Southside has had very poor access to fresh fruits and vegetables. There is one place to purchase food in the neighborhood, and that is Greens, which is a gas station mini mart, which is right next door, really. And so that obviously creates nutritional violence and nutritional oppression for the neighborhood. And yeah, there's also no direct bus route from this neighborhood to a grocery store, which for people, we've seen that there's vehicle access can be a barrier in this neighborhood, especially there's a lot of elders in this neighborhood. There's a lot of families with young children, many of both of those groups living in public housing. And so, yeah, that becomes a barrier. So the people who started Southside Community Farm, several of whom are still deeply involved in the leadership team, we're seeing this in their community. We're experiencing this and chose to do something about it by growing food in the neighborhood and for the neighborhood. And we're continuing to do that. We're growing food and distributing it through our biggest program of distribution is the free fridges. And so that's what you're getting to be a part of, and that's what this is about. Other things that we do is a delivery program. Kate runs a delivery program that gives fresh boxes of fresh foods weekly to families in the neighborhood. That was about 30 families. It bumped up to 60 after the hurricane. um, and other programs that we do, including farmers markets. We also do a lot of youth education and adult education. We have workshops and such. But yeah, the fridges are really important and really core to the work of having food be accessible in Southside, within walking distance of people's homes, within very close driving distance of people's homes. And we know that the fridges aren't only used by Southside residents. We've talked to people who have driven in from the wider Asheville area, outside of Asheville even, to access these fridges and pantries because there aren't enough programs that are available after work hours, available 24/7, and really focusing on fresh food. And so we want the fridges to be available and accessible to anyone and everyone. We don't want it. We know that the second we start putting limits on it, then people are going to have more barriers to food. Our focus is eliminating all the barriers we can to fresh food access. So, and making sure that everyone feels welcome to engage with the fridges. And I even say, like, anyone can use the fridges. If you have wealth privilege, feel free to like send a little donation. I know there's also people who use the fridges who, you know, sometimes they're paycheck to paycheck, other times they're not, and they might use the fridge for a while and then send us a donation when they're a little bit more economically stable. And that's a really sweet like way of doing reciprocity with the fridge. So yeah, I just wanted to give some context of why we're here, why this is important, and kind of our ideas is that everyone deserves fresh food access. We do reduce food waste by having the free fridges, but we're also really, really focusing on high quality. I think that everyone deserves access not to just to edible food, but food that's of the highest quality. We shouldn't have people who are living next to a Whole Foods in Asheville and other people who are just getting wilted vegetables or something that's old or expired or almost expired. So that's definitely a focus of what we're doing and what we ask, kind of the level of quality that we ask our volunteers to help us uphold. Yeah, thank you for being here.
I am Kate. I do like food programming and lots of back-end admin work and just kind of a hodgepodge of things here at the farm. I've worked with Southside Farm for 5, maybe 6 years now. It's hard to keep track. Doing various different things, but I've seen the grocery program grow really significantly, even in the past year, which I'm going to talk a little bit about. But just for some context of the grocery program, when I started, there was a free fridge over at the Eddington Center. It was actually inside. It was next to a kitchen that was making meals daily for residents and also for students. And people would regularly access it, but could only access it during the hours that the building was open. That fridge broke down and ended up not being fixed. And so our solution was to install a free fridge that was open 24/7 on the farm. So now we have, I think, 3 fridges in the neighborhood. 2 of them are managed by the Southside Farm, but it's all like a mutual aid group effort. The 3rd fridge is the South Front Free Fridge, which is a grassroots effort as well. And we have 3 or actually 4 pantries in the neighborhood now. One of them's actually just right outside of the building over there. One's by Herb Watts Park by our orchard. One's at the farm, and one is also at the South French Free Fridge. So that's a lot of spaces to keep full, you know, regularly, and also to ensure that it's like high quality, up to standard, clean. And that's why we have y'all here today to discuss how everyone can pitch in to ensure that those spaces are not spaces that, you know, are misused or are left for people to just take, like Chloe was saying, like lower quality things. Things have been sitting for a long time. Sometimes I quite literally see people's trash. So I'm just going to discuss a little bit of what we currently put in the fridges, the differences in the locations as well. And I'll start by discussing the fridge here, which is our new fridge, which we're really excited about. It's actually inside the building. I can take y'all over there after the volunteer session, but it's a very big glass door fridge, and there's lots of space for produce and snacks and things like that. Considering the location of where we are, this fridge will be accessible only during the hours that the building is operating. And also, there's lots of kids and folks who come through this building daily for various activities. And so there's a lot of opportunity to fill the fridge with, in particular, things like groceries for folks to cook with, as well as things that kids can just grab and take, like juice boxes, or today we're going to make sandwiches. And so that is a really exciting new opportunity that we've been like pushing for like 2 years now. We're really excited about it, and I think my hope is that it emulates the fridge that we had at the Eddington Center. We can put, fresh eggs there, just lots of different opportunities for new stuff. So we are in partnership with the Grant Center, which means we're in partnership with the city, specifically related to this fridge. So we do have a contract with them. That means that, we are very particular about this particular fridge for just ensuring that we can continue to have the fridge in this space. So we want to be really respectful of that contract and agreement. We have these waivers here, actually, that volunteers will have to sign today for being here, but also we'll keep them on file for folks who want to regularly come and volunteer at this fridge. And so it is a bit more structured in that way, because this is a partnership with the city, and it's it's the first time that we've partnered with the city and are actually like enacting this program. The second fridge is the Southside farm fridge, and that's 24 hours. And so folks can go there whenever they want. There's no hourly limit. And that is also located now between essentially one school and one daycare program. And so that's something to really consider, that I let folks know, is like, when you're in the space, think about like who's around you, who might be coming and interacting with this space. And so that's another space that we try to put lots of snacks and things that are accessible to kids, as well as groceries, because that is, like Chloe said, very close to Erskine, also very residential. And so people are more likely to, or we found that people are more likely to take and cook from those fridges. And so those are the focuses for today and for the Southside fridge. And I can touch on the South French free fridge briefly as well, which is over on South French Broad Avenue. It's actually outside someone's residence, and that is a space that we've seen, for instance, more folks take lunch items, things that they can eat on the go or kind of immediately, but we also regularly stock that with groceries as well. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what we've seen that's been successful in the fridges, and also about how we fill them as an organization. So of course we have volunteer support, where folks will just go whenever they want, bring sandwiches, bring meals, clean out the fridges. But in addition to that, we actually spend our funds purchasing for the fridges 3 times a week right now. So that looks like 2 farmers markets a week, where we go attend markets, we buy produce, we buy meat. We try to prioritize BIPOC businesses and farms. So we buy from different folks every week and stock the fridges with produce and things that people are looking for. Some common things that we'll stock are ground beef. We'll put eggs specifically at this location. We, will buy things like vegan patties from Wadadley Dessert Oasis from our friend Stacy, who makes these really amazing vegan Antiguan patties that folks can just grab and go. And we also get like bread, different staples. So we're not just exclusively getting, produce or like salad greens or something, we're actually considering what we see being taken from the fridges and what's being left. And often things like cooking greens are taken really frequently. Also, meat is a really big one, and eggs right now is also a really big one that we've had really positive reaction to. In addition to the markets, we also shop at grocery stores. So, we go to Harris Teeter once a week right now. We pick up juice boxes. We'll pick up, like, I just put some little fresh salad kits in the fridge over there that people can eat immediately. And we'll buy like fruit and vegetables and stock this fridge in particular. So that's a couple ways that we stock the fridge using funding from from donors and grants. And we spend probably like $1,000 a week right now just stocking the fridges. And we do see that move really quickly. So like sometimes we'll stock the fridge on a Friday and by Saturday it's like completely gone. Or like there's one thing left and we're like, okay, maybe somebody doesn't want this particular item. So that's just some ways that we currently support these spaces as an organization. Hans, who's walking in right now, not to call you out, but actually is our Saturday farmers market shopper. And so he attends the North Asheville farmers market every Saturday, buys a certain amount of produce and meat, and then stocks the fridges. The final way that we stock the fridges as an organization is we talk to specific BIPOC farms and businesses about regular delivery to our fridges, like a monthly delivery of, for instance, like herbal tea, things like chicken, different things like that. So that's another way that we try to support businesses and also get the fridge full. So it's kind of like a mini fold thing, but a big piece of what we do is trying to support our local economy and like bolster our local economy while also providing, like Chloe said, high quality produce and things that people are actually looking to get. Yeah, so some do's and don'ts, which I've experienced a lot of do's and a lot of don'ts in the past however many years. We, want to stress again that it's really important that when you're stocking the fridge, not only are you thinking like, would I want this? Or like, is this something, I like to say like, is this something I would choose at the grocery store? Given the option, like if I saw this bruised tomato or this nicer tomato, like would I actually make this choice? So that's one piece. Of course, we don't want to discourage from like, we don't want to create waste necessarily, but we do have a composting system on the farm, and there are also ways that you can use produce that might be a little bit past its prime, for instance, making meals at your home and then bringing them to the fridges. So that's one thing. Some things I'll just say that we've seen maybe as examples of don'ts. There's like huge catering trays that are not easily accessible because either you're taking the whole tray or you're not having the materials or ability to like parse that out for yourself. So it means there's a lot of like touching and like, yeah, like you said, Laura, looking to see what's in the pan or in the trays, etc. Like I said, like trash, things that are like well past their expiration date, we do not take. And also kind of considering like how you're organizing the fridge is really important, not like shoving old stuff to the back of the fridge, recognizing that, in some spaces we do have lots of kids who sometimes are curious and bored and like maybe want to pour out a bag of rice on the ground because like that's more exciting than just dry rice, things like that. Or, like if you're a regular volunteer and you're coming and seeing the same thing and it's just sitting there, it's like that's an opportunity to take that away and either move it to a different location and see if it works better in that space or find another source, because it's not just a space to kind of like put like your guilt essentially and put your things that you don't want. Like it's a space to actually get people engaged and get people coming back and knowing that like what to expect. Some really great things that we see, and one of those things we're going to do today is when folks make meals properly and provide them to the community. So that looks like, you know, being really sanitary in your home or being in a commercial kitchen, making sure you hand wash and use gloves and prepare the food. And when you are bagging or putting the food in a container, which has to be like a personal or family size container, you're writing the date that you made it and all the ingredients so that somebody can see this and take it and know, like, oh, this was made yesterday, I'm comfortable with that. If this was made 3 days ago, maybe I don't want to eat that. Or a volunteer sees that and can discard that. So it can feel a little bit intimidating because there isn't like an exact, like, this is exactly what you buy, this is exactly what this looks like. But I think coming from it with the attitude of like, what would I want to eat? What's like, if I went to a restaurant, like, what would I order, you know? And like, if I'm going to the store, what am I excited about too? Like, not just like what is a basic need, because of course we are fulfilling, you know, a human right, which is eating food, but also like what's like exciting, or what's like, yeah, what's something a kid wants. Like a kid wants fruit, but also a kid maybe wants a bag of chips, you know, like cookies, things like that. So not like limiting it to like what you think somebody should eat, but more limiting it to, or just expanding it to like, what would somebody get excited about, or what would, you know, what's a high quality product that's less accessible. Eggs. People love eggs. Maybe sometimes people love to throw eggs. We don't know for sure, but we can suspect. And so this fridge is, we're starting to stock eggs here because it's indoors. It's like a little bit more controlled environment. And that's a great place to put eggs. We've seen them go really quickly and people are really excited about them in the neighborhood. I know this because we do the deliveries regularly and people are always like, that's a big thing, is eggs. They're excited to get eggs. At the Southside fridge, however, we do not take eggs because that's a space that is less controlled. Also, it's not a space that we're, you know, owners of, or like have that kind of precedent in that space. And so we want to be really careful about how it looks and what's happening there essentially. And so we don't take eggs there. So if you are volunteering and you see eggs, take them out and bring them here. We typically don't put products that have peanut butter at the Southside fridge because kids are there often like without a parent, and we just want to ensure that nobody has any kind of reaction or allergy. We don't take clothes donations or like shoes donations typically. At the farm, we often see people just kind of throw things on the pavilion. We do have a pantry there now, so that's happening less, but you know, people are less likely to take clothes from that space and also from this pantry probably. At South Front Free Fridge, I do think that there's like people are more lenient about that, but we are not doing that at Southside right now. I do think people, you know, potentially have like their heart in the right place, really just like want to see something get out to people. And I think like that urgency can sometimes take over. And maybe just like if you feel that, like sitting with that for a second and being like, okay, do there need to be 500 like of this thing in the fridge? Is that actually a realistic thing that's going to be moved? And then maybe like stepping back and being like, okay, we're not going to do this right now. We're going to like wait and see what's a good space. The South Side fridge is not accessible. It's only accessible by stair. So some folks cannot walk down the stairs with like a huge, you know, bin of produce, and other people can. And so there's ways to ensure that people are plugging in the ways that feel comfortable for them, and also just, yeah, creating like a larger impact by getting more out with someone who, yeah, like you, Laura, that has time to sit and bag. So we often communicate using Signal. And so that's like a real-time way that folks can plug in with each other. Like there's a few of us who are, I mean, Chloe, for instance, is always at the farm. So There's a few of us that kind of have eyes on the different spaces more typically, and so we can kind of communicate with one another about like, hey, today there's like barbecue sauce all over the pantry at Herb Watts. That's a real true story. And who can come and, clean this up today? And folks can jump in and do that pretty easily sometimes, sometimes not. But that's a really good way that we kind of directly communicate. There's things that are exciting to maybe myself, but not somebody who's like maybe not used to sugar cane, for instance, like, or like a big thing of lemongrass, like that. Maybe somebody wants that, but if it's going to sit there for more than like 2 or 3 days, that's a time to maybe take it with you and be like, I know how to use this, I know how to cook with this, I'm going to make like a really great meal to put back in the fridge. So I think that's a really good kind of opportunity actually when you're going around to these different spaces, is like as you start seeing what's taken and what's left, like recognizing like, oh, this, I don't want this to go to waste, like I can make a meal, or I can give it to a friend who can make a meal. I know this will go really quickly at this fridge because I've seen, sandwiches go in like 12 hours. Like if there's 500 sandwiches in the Southside fridge, like take 250 of them and put them in the South French free fridge. So it's a little bit of like a balance and seeing for yourself like how the space kind of ebbs and flows. The issue that we see often too is just like the cleanliness. So that's really big and like maybe not the most glamorous part of this volunteer work, but a huge help. Also, when you're thinking about what would somebody want to see and take from their fridge, like somebody doesn't want to take like, a tomato that's like smashed in the fridge, even if there's like a really nice hamburger patty next to it or something. So making sure that you have cleaning supplies that you're bringing around, or if you don't have access to them or you want to take some, I have cleaning supplies that I can give out to volunteers who are interested. And that's a huge role, just like driving around, checking all the spaces and like cleaning up. And usually it's just like wiping down the fridge, composting at the farm, throwing things away, and sometimes sweeping or cleaning in the spaces that have maybe more children. We want to make sure that folks who are going to make meals have like the supplies that they need in order to package them. So there are, clamshells, which are those little to-go things that are at my house as well as stored. There's a big storage unit over at the South French free fridge, which we have access to. So if we do have folks who are like, I really want to make meals, or folks who are like, I really want to clean, like I will reach out to y'all and provide you with the materials that you need in order to do that, so that you're not just kind of like floundering trying to figure out what's best used. And I also have limited time, but am also available to like meet you at a fridge and like do a rundown. There's a few of us that kind of have eyes on the different spaces more typically, and so we can kind of communicate with one another about like, hey, today there's like barbecue sauce all over the pantry at Herb Watts. That's a real true story. And who can come and, clean this up today? And folks can jump in and do that pretty easily sometimes, sometimes not. But that's a really good way that we kind of directly communicate. One way that we kind of communicate with one another that's pretty simple is just snapping a photo of the fridges and pantries when you're there. So you can snap a photo and say, this is what it looks like. If you're a newer volunteer and you didn't organize it or whatever, that's fine. Often we'll chime in and say like, can somebody get this huge can of like tomatoes out of there next time you're there? Or like, this shouldn't be here. This actually looks like something that will go better in the South French free fridge. So that's a way to let folks know like how we can organize it for the next volunteer that's going. And also just provide an update about like how quickly are things moving out of the fridge? When is it empty? When is one full and one's more empty? So just having a way to like communicate that visually has been really helpful. I'm specifically looking for people to support the Grant Setter fridge today, just because it's newer. we want to make sure that we're starting off with like a really good precedent for what this fridge is going to look like, what we'll have for the community. And we're actually going to, once we have specific days that we know that the fridge will be full, give this neighborhood and community members that we know and information about when the fridge will be full, so that they can come here and see and expect to be able to shop essentially and not come here and see an empty fridge. So that's one thing that I really would love, is finding a weekly volunteer who can help support filling the fridge. We are able to provide basically a Southside credit card, which you can take with you. So there's no expectation of like reimbursement or pay unless you would like to donate some of your money to buy different products. And we're also looking for folks to just have eyes on the fridge, who can come here, check it, wipe it down, and maybe take a little inventory of like what we're seeing go quickly and what's kind of being left behind. Often if you just like walk into a business or like cold call a business and tell them what you're trying to do, you'll find that like potentially that can create a relationship that will like span years. Like for instance, Owl Bakery gives all of their leftover pastries and bread to us weekly from their West Asheville location. And that just happened from me. I mean, I live in that neighborhood and just like chatting with someone about what they do with their leftover stuff. And now that's a relationship that's like consistent and happens every week. So that's another volunteer opportunity, is just like finding businesses that want to support and figuring out how to get those things from that space to our fridges. Because often I think that the biggest kind of barrier of like donation in that way is like the capacity to, work your shift and then drive, after that over. Some people are willing to do that, but filling in those gaps of like not one person doing every single step to get this to this space, I think can work really well, and takes a little coordinating, but yeah. Yeah. Are there any questions about fridges? Yes?
What about badly dented cans?
I typically would say no to the dented cans. Also, on the topic of cans, the catering or the cooking size, like big restaurant cans, we won't take those. Any other questions? Yes.
This might be obvious, but are there any freezer spaces?
Yeah, there are.
Used differently?
Yeah, so there are freezer spaces. There's not a freezer here. However, there's a freezer at the Southside fridge over on the farm, as well as the South French free fridge. Things that I like to put in the freezer are any kind of meat that you get, just so that you can see that it'll keep. We will buy like, frozen pizzas. When I get bagels, we sometimes get bagels donated from Brugger's. We'll bag them and then freeze those. So anything that we might have like a larger amount of that could be kept frozen, we try to do that. And there's actually at the Southside fridge, there's kind of a double door system. So the freezer there is quite large and you can fit quite a bit into that freezer. And then South French free fridge has like a smaller freezer at the top of the fridge. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Are you interested in the new fridge to have prepared meals as well, or mostly groceries?
I think we'll probably start with groceries and maybe, things that are more accessible to children, like sandwiches. But I think we will try to focus on groceries there for now and not overload it with prepared meals, because we do see that prepared meals are, frequently being filled in the South French free fridge and the Southside fridge. So we have 2 locations that we know people expect prepared meals at and are already using for prepared meals. I like to say that like at Southside fridge at the farm, for instance, like having 20 prepared meals there is great. Any more than that can be overwhelming, and often we're throwing some of those things away. South French free fridge, prepared meals go really quickly there. So while we are making sandwiches today, and we're going to put some of those in this fridge, I'm going to invite folks to also take a little map when you're leaving and go around to the other fridges and pantries and just see what they look like today. Maybe some folks can bring different sandwiches. But yeah, this is a good example of the things that we want to have in the fridge. So we've got some fruit down here, we've got some of those prepared salad kits, lots of juices, and then some produce from the farmers markets as well. And so we'll add some of the sandwiches probably on this little lower level, and we can put some of the peanut butter and jelly up here, so it's less accessible to like a little kid who might not be able to reach